You're standing over the trash can again. The thing in your hand is objectively useless. A cardboard box from a purchase you made 6 months ago. A receipt from 2019. A pen that ran out of ink 3 years back. And you know, logically, rationally, that it needs to go. But your hand won't open. There's this small, tight feeling in your chest. This quiet voice that whispers, what if you need it someday? And the worst part isn't the object. It's the fact that you can see yourself from the outside, standing there frozen over a trash can, unable to let go of something that means nothing. And you can't explain to anyone why this feels impossible. The people who don't feel this think you're being ridiculous, lazy, a hoarder in training. But you're not saving things because you love clutter. You're saving them because throwing them away feels like losing something you can't get back. So let's start with the question that sits underneath all of it. If these things are genuinely useless, if you haven't touched them in months or years, if they're taking up space and creating stress, then why does discarding them feel like grief? Because it does. For some people, throwing away an object, even a meaningless one, triggers the same neural circuitry that processes loss. And that's not irrational. That's your brain doing exactly what it was built to do, which is protect you from regret. In 1979, psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky published their groundbreaking work on loss aversion, the principle that humans feel losses roughly twice as intensely as equivalent gains. Losing $20 hurts more than finding $20 feels good. And this asymmetry, this disproportionate weight we place on loss, doesn't just apply to money. It applies to everything, including objects. The endowment effect, a related concept, shows that people value things more highly simply because they own them. You'd pay $5 for a mug in a store, but once it's yours, you wouldn't sell it for less than $15. Not because the mug changed, because your relationship to it did. You attached. And here's where it gets more complicated. The objects you can't throw away aren't just objects. They're anchors. Memory anchors, identity anchors, future possibility anchors. That concert ticket stub from 10 years ago isn't paper. It's proof that you were there, that the night happened, that a version of you existed who felt that joy. Throwing it away feels like erasing that version of yourself. The broken watch your grandfather gave you isn't a broken watch. It's the last physical thing tethering you to him. The stack of magazines you haven't read yet isn't clutter. It's the person you might become if you ever have the time. Every object you save is holding space for a memory you don't want to forget, or a future you don't want to foreclose. And the research backs this up. Studies on object attachment show that people who struggle to discard items often score higher on measures of sentimentality, nostalgia, and what psychologists call experiential avoidance, the tendency to avoid emotional discomfort by controlling the external environment. If you can't control the past, at least you can keep the evidence it happened. If you can't guarantee the future, at least you can keep the tools that might matter someday. The objects become proxies for security in a world that feels uncertain. There's also a strong tie to childhood attachment patterns. Psychologist John Bowlby's attachment theory, originally focused on relationships between children and caregivers, extends to how we relate to objects. People who experienced inconsistency, instability, or loss early in life often develop what's called anxious attachment, a heightened sensitivity to potential loss and a tendency to cling tighter to what they have. And that doesn't just show up in relationships. It shows up in how you relate to your possessions. If your childhood taught you that things or people could disappear without warning, your brain learned to hold on tight to everything. Now, here's the part that's harder to hear. Because while all of this is real, while the emotions are valid and the brain science checks out, the cost is also real. The boxes stacked in the garage, the closet you can't open, the drawer that won't close, the mental load of knowing you're surrounded by things you don't use but can't release, and the tension it creates with the people who live with you, who look at the pile of saved shopping bags and broken electronics and takeout containers and don't see memory anchors. They see mess. And when they ask you to just throw it away, and you can't explain why that feels impossible, the gap between you widens. They think you don't care about the space. You think they don't understand what you're protecting. Both of you are right, and both of you are stuck. But here's the reframe that might actually help. The problem isn't that you're keeping things. The problem is what you're asking those things to do for you. You're treating objects like they can hold time, like they can preserve moments, guarantee futures, protect you from regret. And they can't. The concert ticket doesn't keep the memory safe. Your brain does. The broken watch doesn't keep your grandfather close. Your relationship with him does. And that exists independently of any physical thing. The unread magazines don't make you the person who reads them. Only reading them does. The objects aren't doing the work you think they're doing. You are. And you've been doing it the whole time. And maybe the real question isn't, how do I throw this away? Maybe it's, what am I afraid will disappear if I do? Because once you name the actual fear, once you pull it out of the object and look at it directly, the object loses its power. You're not afraid of losing a cardboard box. You're afraid of forgetting the excitement you felt when you opened it. You're not afraid of discarding the broken thing. You're afraid of dishonoring the person who gave it to you. You're not afraid of clearing space. You're afraid that without the clutter, you won't recognize yourself.